Hello, folks. We're back. We are talking today, finally, our third and I think final part of our series of our Murder on the Orient Express deep dive. Today, we are at long last reviewing the 2017 adaptation directed by Kenneth Branagh. And boy,
I've been really looking forward to this one.
because you hadn't seen it.
Because this was the only one of the Orient on the
Murder Express?
Sorry, I'm a slightly dyslexic.
Oh, goodness.
That I was looking forward to because I've never seen it. So it was like, okay, I've seen the other ones. This is the only one, and this was like the grand finale.
This was.
I was really excited to see this one.
Okay, so before we delve into it, what were your overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts, I have mixed feelings.
Okay.
I have mixed feelings because there were a lot of points in the movie that I was like, yeah, that was not in the book. And even Jessie, I had Jessie watch it with me, and she was like, yeah, that was a weird turn. The pacing, like, they had, like, chase scenes, and they had gunfights, and you're like, what is going on? And then you sit back and you're like, no, this is an adaptation. This is a modern reinvention, and we're enjoying this. We are enjoying this, and overall, as a cinematic experience, actually, I didn't even delve into I feel like all of the movies within the last 10 years feel and look the same. I feel like the CGI, like those wide pans as the you look into the sunset and you see the mountains and you're like, that looks like every other movies I've seen that since like 2015, 2016. Yep. And that's because I feel personally, I'm not a expert in the field, but I feel like it's just the CGI production, and it's something that we've come to establish. Like I've seen, we went to the theater last week and we saw Tron Eras. Oh yeah, and I had a whole bit that I wanted to show you and talk to you about, but I've realized that we've run out of time for that.
It's okay.
I might save it for the finale.
Okay,
for the end of the show. But watching it, I was like, I feel like I've watched this movie before. Because the chase scenes, the graphics, the camera work all felt not even stereotypical, but like I've seen it before.
Yeah.
And part of this movie, there were a couple of bits with like the train and the mountains and stuff, and you're like, okay, I know that's CGI. And I know that I know the software engineer that ran it, I know the program they ran it, I know the graphics product, it just feels so canned. So there were bits that I was like, okay, this feels like it looks so great. And there's a couple of details that I want to go into overall.
We will, yeah.
For example, this movie was filmed on 65 millimeter.
Yes, I do have that.
We're going to talk about this a lot throughout this podcast. But that gave it that huge, kind of that more cinematic.
Very crisp, very sharp.
So it gives you that, and I actually did a little research on why 65 millimeter feels as a viewer so much different than 35.
So did I.
So I feel like I've been talking for a while. Sam, why don't you take this? What's the difference between 35 millimeter and 60?
Oh, I was just going to talk about my overall thoughts before we...
Are we I cornholing here? Or are we?
I mean, most movies these days, they are filmed on 35 millimeter film. Kenneth Branagh, he wanted a more crisp, almost like no grain at all, high quality image to evoke that opulence of the time, kind of like old Hollywood. And 65 millimeter film, it has more negative space, which allows it to have that kind of detail. It also requires far bigger cameras that are more obtuse and cumbersome. And so that explains some of the choices they made that I'll get into later. But Kenneth Branagh had worked with Christopher Nolan on a few films before, or maybe it might have just been one. But Christopher Nolan has used 65 millimeter film on a few of his films himself, and so I think that might have been where he drew inspiration.
So Kenneth Branagh, the only other film that he used 65 millimeter on was Hamlet back in 1997.
Yes, but I'm talking about how Christopher Nolan.
Okay, Christopher Nolan. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's.
Well, before you still haven't gone to my overall thoughts.
That's so much. I just have so much I want
We
to.
still haven't gone to my overall thoughts.
Overall thoughts. I don't even know if I have a grade scale on this yet.
No.
I want to save that for the end.
Okay, still on to my overall thoughts.
I had a good time.
Okay.
To be fair, though, I walked into this with very low expectations because we had just walked out of David Suchet. We had just walked out of the classic
Sidney Lumet.
Sidney Lumet.
Not Plumet. Or Plumet.
No, Sidney Lumet.
No, Sidney Lumet. Not Lumet.
There's no P. There's no P.
Go on.
Okay, no more Utah.
Go on. Yes.
Lumet.
Yes.
So I feel like there were very high expectations with this. I had a good time because I walked into it with no expectation.
Okay.
The graphics were amazing. The storytelling, I think for a first-time viewer, like if I was to take a Gen Z viewer and put them in the theater and have them watch this show, they could tell me overall what happened to Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. I don't think they would have picked up the nuance that the book had. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think they would have picked up the nuances from the other films, the other shows that have portrayed this.
Well, okay.
I want to hear your opinions now.
Oh, it's bad. It is really bad. It is not good. It is laughably bad. Like they add in all this extra stuff that does nothing or just creates plot holes. It does look beautiful. I'll give you that. It looks incredible, sounds incredible. The cast is just kind of all over the place. Poirot is definitely not Poirot. It's just overall very stupid. All of that being said, sit down. All of that being said, why did I actually love it when I watched it this time? I hadn't seen it a few times before. I saw this in theaters when it was released. And
2017.
yeah, and I have a story behind that later, like for the end. But yeah, and I think the reason
This has been such a roller coaster.
the reason I enjoyed it so much this time, because I think that out of the three major adaptations, it packs the biggest emotional punch. It has a very good final act with the big reveal. Like, truthfully, I had tears streaming down my face when I watched it this time.
No.
And I was not planning on that. I was like,
No.
dang you, movie! I was not planning on that.
I'm a very surprised.
Yeah, and so what? So this time,
I will agree with you. The build up was
well, okay, I'll tell you what.
confusing in bits, and the conclusion was probably of the I want to say let's save that for the end.
Big
Let's
three.
give that.
So I watched it this time. I had two buddies over, and one of them had seen it. One of them had never seen it. Didn't know anything about the story at all, Murder on the Orient Express. I was like, you know what, can we watch this? Because I'm curious to see your thoughts and opinions as a first-time
One viewer had, one viewer had.
And so we watched it all the way through, and I asked him at the end, all right, what did you think? And he said, and I quote, a very mediocre movie with a great ending. And I said, you know what? I agree with you. I do agree with you. For me, it's a great ending, a final resolution. Now, the big question is the ending enough to save it and elevate it above the David Suchet version for me? Let us find out as we delve in to this adaptation.
I'm interested in seeing, because to be fair, I only got through this movie once, so I had some very shorthand notes.
Well, we'll be playing it in the background as we review this.
I'm interested in seeing how my opinion changes by the end of
And I'm curious too, because I could feel, and I'm still not sure where I stand in the big picture of the adaptation.
You know, I was thinking about that over here, on the drive over here, because there were bits that I loved. Mm-hmm. You know how like every point grade average, like there are things that were awesome, and then there were some things that were meh, and there were other things that were like,
yeah.
But like overall, what is your Rotten Tomato score? What is your
this does not have a super
fresh squash?
Is it fresh or rotten? Yeah. I think this has like a 50 or 60% score on Rotten Tomatoes. So like critics were kind of like, overall.
Yeah. Okay, to be fair, critics are, I mean, for any movie coming out.
Now, I'm a sucker. I trust the critics typically.
Really?
I'm a sucker. I will, yeah.
I think it's worth reading their review.
But yeah.
Like for storyline, plot, pacing, and stuff. But if you're a fan of the series, like because typically critics are not fans of the series.
They don't.
Let's be honest.
They don't review with the big picture in mind. And I follow many movie critics on YouTube, and some of them I'm like, no, okay, I think you're just being cynical for the sake of being cynical. But let's get into some production notes. We haven't even gotten into the plot summary yet.
Where are we at? 50. Oh,
okay, yeah.
Okay,
I told you to get cozy, people.
My big laugh with this. So of course the story was originally written by Agatha Christie.
Yes, we know this.
Nearly 100 years ago.
Yep.
But the screenplay was written by Michael Green.
Okay.
Now Michael Green does have some feather in his caps, like Logan. However, he also was one of the screenwriters on Green Lantern.
Oh, that bombed, didn't it? Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt with what you made. Like Michael Green has had some awesome wins recently, but he's also had some. And to be fair, there were some other issues with the Green Lantern, but I think that plays into this kind of how our mixed feelings on this film, because there are moments that you're like, that's awesome, and there are moments that you're like, eh. So Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
Not only plays Hercule Poirot, but he also is one of the primary directors on the film.
The director. Now, so I don't want to talk about his casting or performance as Poirot just yet, but talking about Kenneth Branagh's directing. Kenneth Branagh makes beautiful looking movies. His movies have a definite style to them, this grand scale, like just very saturated, colorful feeling. He makes beautiful looking movies, maybe a bit too glossy, if that makes sense.
Shiny.
But he also directed the live action adaptation of Cinderella that Disney did, 10 years ago?
That was a while ago.
That was a gorgeous movie.
Yeah.
My only thing with Kenneth Branagh is he makes movies that are beautiful, but they often focus more on looks than actual substance. Like, if you just do, scratch beneath the surface just a little bit, you realize, oh, wait, that is kind of dumb. But,
so I have my notes here. Kenneth Branagh not only plays Hercule Poirot, who has he has a huge resume in film.
I thought you were going to say a huge mustache. Yeah.
He does have a huge...
We'll get into that.
We'll save that. Now, not as a director, but as an actor. He's played in Marvel films. He's been in Valkyrie, in Oppenheimer, in Tenet. But my absolute favorite...
I didn't know he was in Marvel, but go on.
...is Dr. Lovelace from Wild Wild West.
Oh, I never saw it.
But in this, he's not just the main actor, he's also the director. So hopefully he can kind of bring it back from because do you remember Wild Wild West?
I didn't see it.
Okay, friend.
Sorry.
Fam, we're going to have to review this next time. That is
What year did it come out?
Oh, Wild Wild West came out, I don't know, like 2000s?
I feel like 2007.
So, Will Smith actually did like the primary music for the film.
Yes.
So it was like the one album that he rapped for. It was this, and the CGI was terrible because it was early 2000s. But Kenneth Branagh played the primary villain.
Okay. Yeah.
In this horrible Western.
I feel like it was 2011. Yeah.
It was terrible.
Anyway, so I don't have.
So
yeah.
Buffer your expectations with this film with the fact that Kenneth Branagh not only directs and plays in awesome movies, but he also plays in terrible movies.
And I do have a lot to say about Kenneth Branagh. I only have a few random production notes. You might have more than I do, but
let's run through
we'll run through the cast after.
Okay. Do production
for one. The train is real, y'all. That is a real train that they reconstructed. They built that whole Istanbul station. They rebuilt it all on a soundstage. And outside the doors of the soundstage, the train track stretched out for like a mile.
Well, they actually built a full sound studio for a mile.
And the actors were surprised when they learned the train was actually going to move when it departed. So that was kind of cool to see. And Kenneth Branagh, he did check out the real train, the Orient Express, once he did that, and they decided they were going to film this on 65 millimeter film, which required these gigantic cameras. They decided to make the train much wider than it actually was, partially because of the big cameras. To me, that was a bit of a shame, because one thing I do like about the other two adaptations is how they captured like the claustrophobic feel of it. This train is like wider than my living room. They ended up doing this.
The description was the train corridors in this movie are, quote, slightly wider.
Slightly.
If you view the footage, I mean, this train was double.
You could fit a sectional couch on this train.
It was,
you really could.
It was pretty cushy, which made it very comfortable to watch. But I like the original. It gave you that sense of I don't know, unsuppressed tension.
Yeah, that claustrophobia.
That feeling of being
and you have that feel of a closed door whodunit. Yeah. I'm not a fan of how they do the flashbacks in black and white in this movie. To me, it just feels very lazy. Like, oh, let's just do it in black and white. I didn't like that.
The flashbacks, I feel like there was a reference to some of the original Poirot episodes where they had, but even then the Poirot episodes did so much more.
You can frame it in a way like
they did so much more with the black and white and the I don't even know what stylization they did on that.
Well, even the 1974 movie, they used a wide angle like fisheye lens for the flashback sequences in a lot of them.
Black and white. Anyway, continue.
The music is composed by Patrick Doyle, who I do love the music that he composes. He is a frequent collaborator with Kenneth Branagh. But I just want to talk about the biggest production point for me, which is the mustache.
Are we talking about that now?
When I first saw the trailer for this movie, and I didn't know anything about Murder on the Orient Express, I saw it, like, they reveal his mustache at the end of the teaser trailer. I'm like, what? I'm supposed to take this man seriously? But when you watch interviews with Kenneth Branagh, when he's talking about the mustache, he is so proud of it and knows, like, feels like they made the right decision, because it's literally two mustaches layered on top of each other that, like, stretch over here.
Yes.
And he says
he tried growing one.
Yes, he said he had tried growing one.
Tried growing a mustache and couldn't, so it was actually fake.
And the way he justifies it is because in one of the Agatha Christie books, maybe more than one, like no more than 5 occasions, she says, oh, Poirot had the most magnificent mustaches in all of England. Kenneth Branagh decided to interpret that literally. It says, oh, so he has literally 2 mustaches. Rather than using logic for like 5 seconds and realizing that was just like an old English way.
Gash mustache.
An old English way of wording it, like much like you would say whiskers. He interpreted it as, oh, so he literally has 2 mustaches then. They have to be like magnificent.
I was wondering.
And they spent 9 months working out how the mustache was going to look. And this is what they landed on, and it looks so stupid. My wife said, is that the Monopoly Man mustache? I was like, no, the Monopoly Man looks tame compared to this.
Honestly, okay.
Go.
Now that we're here, because I'm too nice.
You nice,
and I know I have to be too. The moment I saw that mustache, I just laughed.
Yes.
I was like, that is so not even comical. That is ridiculous. That is absurd. And because you're like, okay, in the books, and to be fair, some of the critics have said, well, in the original airing of I forget which version that
the Sidney Lumet version?
The one Agatha Christie saw.
Yes, Sidney Lumet, the 1970s.
She said, well, the mustache is not big enough.
Yes.
It was like, okay.
I don't think she wanted it to be this gigantic.
I don't think she meant 4 mustaches.
Yeah. And you can't tell me that I'm completely off, because in the subsequent Kenneth Branagh films, he also did Hercule Poirot in Death on the Nile and what they called A Haunting in Venice. in those two films, his mustache gets progressively a little smaller and more tamed. So I think even they realized, okay, yeah, maybe right.
His literally, it went back to his. It was a. I don't even know what.
In this movie, it goes like to here.
It's ridiculous. It is 2 full-size stashes.
Yeah. So
we haven't even gotten into the movie yet.
I don't know. We're going to the cast. Hey guys, I told you to cozy up.
This
right?
is a long.
So we'll get into the cast. The cast overall is fairly underused because of a ton of added plot points, but we'll get to that. Can I talk about Kenneth Branagh as Poirot? Look how much I wrote down about it.
Just have at it. So I'm gonna sit back and let you go.
So
me and our listener are gonna enjoy you monologuing.
Kenneth Branagh, he not only directs but also stars in this film as Hercule Poirot, one of the most iconic detectives of our time. Fictional detectives of our time. Now, to be fair, I watched a lot of interviews with Kenneth Branagh. He seems like a very nice guy, but he makes himself the star of this movie. Now, if somebody has to take up the mantle of Hercule Poirot for like the next generation, I totally understand that. Fine. But we have so many great potential actors to play Poirot in this generation. I think, heck, I would even take Josh Gad in this movie as the next Poirot. He has skills.
No,
I would. No. Am I saying that I think he's back? Am I saying I think Josh Gad is great? I want to have him over for breakfast? No. But do I think physically he fits the bill as Poirot? Yes, I do. Now listen.
Rewind.
Now let me just say this, and then you can go. So there's lots of digest. Yes, this is the win. You can go on.
Sent it.
But there are so many potential great actors to take up the mantle of Poirot. But something in Kenneth Branagh's head said, "Oh, I know. Me. I'll be Poirot." Now, I have never been a big fan of directors starring in their own movies. Granted, sometimes it has been perfect. It has worked really well. I think of Life is Beautiful, that Italian movie. The lead actor, Roberto, I forget his last name, he starred and directed in it. He was great. John Krasinski, he starred and directed A Quiet Place. That was great.
The first one.
Yes. But in cases like this, listen.
I'm trying to pull up the actor's name. Life
is Beautiful. Roberto.
Roberto Benigni.
Yeah, sure. Now, okay. But in cases like this, it feels like, you know how when you were a kid and you wanted to make your own Star Wars home movies and you really wanted to be Obi-Wan Kenobi, so you would force your siblings to make this home movie with you where you got to be Obi-Wan Kenobi and they were forced to sit back and watch you play Obi-Wan Kenobi even though you had no acting chops whatsoever, but you got to live out your dream of playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's what this feels like. It feels like Kenneth Branagh is making his siblings sit back and watch as he plays Hercule Poirot. It's true! And I watched an interview. I'm only halfway through my monologue. I watched an interview where the interviewer asked Kenneth Branagh, so what came first? Were you made the director of this movie or were you first cast as Poirot?
Which is an excellent question.
You know what his answer was? He said, well, if you think about it, Poirot is kind of a director himself, orchestrating this whole investigation. So I said to myself, well, I might as well be Poirot.
That is the most bull cookies answer that this man could have pulled out of his hat. He said, so what he said, decrypt it. I was the director and I decided to make...
I can channel myself, yeah. And now I feel like most good movies where the director also stars in the movie, it happened that the director was a good actor first and then went on to direct. And that leads me to my final point. I don't think Kenneth Branagh is even a good actor. Listen, he can't even decide on a voice or a tone or pitch for Poirot. If you go back and watch it, he's like, I blamed the chicken. There is right and there is wrong. Go back and watch it and you will see what I mean. But he has a few good moments here and there. I like it best when he's not trying so hard. And apparently he worked with a dialect coach for many months. To me, it did not pay off. And if you think I'm being harsh, actually, allow me to read you this excerpt from the first Agatha Christie novel to feature Hercule Poirot, The Mysterious Affair at Styles. This is an incredible story, a beautiful murder mystery. Please check it out.
Are we going to review the book next?
We should. Let's go to chapter 2. And I'm going to read you Captain Hastings' initial description of Hercule Poirot. Now, just listen to this and tell me who this makes you think of. Poirot was an extraordinary-looking little man. He was hardly more than 5 feet 4 inches, but carried himself with great dignity. His head was exactly the shape of an egg, and he always pursed it a little on one side. His mustache was very stiff and military. The neatness of his attire was almost incredible. I believe a speck of dust would have caused him more pain than a bullet wound. Does that sound like Kenneth Branagh? Or
David Suchet?
David Suchet. By the book. Ah! So with that, I would just like to say, overall, this portrayal of Poirot just comes across as very bizarre and very self-indulgent. Like, he made this for himself.
Okay. To be fair,
What?
we've made our own movies.
That's different.
We were literally gonna film part of the sequel today. Whether was your main actor and the director.
But that's not the same. We're not under contract with a major studio.
That's a crew of 2.
Yes.
This man had how big? Because you said this was the first part in a
Yeah, he would go on
series.
Yes, and I don't know if he's making more
with Netflix. No,
with 20th Century Fox.
with 20th Century Fox. And this was the first one of 3. I feel like a director, and this is just I'm not talking about this movie, I'm just talking about any movie in general. It's generally bad practice to have a director take the lead role.
Yes.
There have been a few notable exceptions.
Right.
Where the director says, you aren't cutting the mustard, I'm going to step in because I have the vision. I know what I want to see. I know what I want, so I'm going to just do it. Those have been fantastic, but those have been the exception. As the rule, Kenneth Branagh doesn't cut the mustard.
He's not Poirot.
He's not
He's not.
He is not Poirot.
Okay, I know we have to move along. Sorry. Did you have anything major that you needed?
We have to move on to the cast.
Okay, Tom Bateman as Book. And Book, in this adaptation, he plays more of like the rebellious bad boy. And he says, Poirot tolerates me because even though I'm a terrible person. Actually, I kind of like this change to his character. I kind of like that could be a very fun dynamic. They don't do as much with it as they could, but I don't mind it.
They touch at it, and I like it.
Yeah.
But the shift in being Book, because number one, you make Book automatically 20 years younger.
Yes.
Like between all the other adaptations and this one, it's a good 20-30 year gap, and you're like, is that Book? And it's like, yes.
Is this book by the book?
This is not by the book, if you will. He does a great job though.
Yeah.
Tom Bateman does a fantastic job at portraying this. And I was kind of sad at seeing, and we'll get into it a little bit later on in the film, Book portrayed in the book version,
a novel,
the reader, the questions that you would ask as the novel, as the story, as the mystery progressed. He would ask, oh, it had to be so-and-so because they saw this or they did this. And then Poirot would reprimand the reader, he would reprimand Book as saying, no, that doesn't make sense because of this fact. Whereas in this, Book he became a sidekick. Literally, he was only there. His intrinsic role was to get Poirot on the train.
Yeah, he's not as present in the investigation as he is in the book.
At all.
Mind, yeah.
I think his shining moment is the first. There's this weird sequence with bread.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about later. There's this whole thing with bread and the people and the smell. And then he gets Poirot on the train. He's like, second class, first class. Put him in train car 13 or
He does have an emotional moment at the end, like with when he's like, you can't let them kill it. Yeah.
Right at the end, where he's pointing a gun at everyone.
Okay, we'll get into that. Okay, we have to move along. Johnny...
Plot teasers,
yeah.
Okay? It's for the listeners.
Johnny Depp plays Samuel Ratchet / Cassetti. Now...
I want your initial thoughts on this.
Now, I know that this was in the midst of Johnny Depp's big fallout with Amber Heard. Now, if you are like me, you watched that trial with bated breath every single day, and you just ate it up. So apparently there were rumors of him being problematic, difficult on set. I don't know. I couldn't find anything like verified, established. But I will say this. Johnny Depp had actually been on the Orient Express, the real Orient Express. And he said that this felt very true to it. And sheesh. Samantha and I, just for the fun of it, looked at tickets for the real Orient Express, and it cost at least $3,500 for even just going on it one night. And he said this was basically the same thing.
Which, to be fair, if you were making as much as Johnny Depp,
yeah,
that would have been an awesome weekend.
Yeah, I thought he was a serviceable Cassetti.
Keep going.
It's all you got. Lost that. Go on.
I enjoyed it thoroughly because I feel like he played the Ratchet. He played the character. It was very difficult. I will grant you, it was very difficult as the viewer to remove Johnny Depp from the movie.
Right.
Because you look at him and you're like, oh, this is Pirates of the Caribbean.
This is Johnny Depp.
This is Johnny Depp. This is the guy you know and you love, and you're like, all right, this is the character he played, the way he played the bad guy. He played Cassetti.
For me, Toby Jones from the Poirot adaptation was the best Cassetti. Johnny Depp's portrayal comes across a little cartoonish at times. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault. I do have a thought overall on casting that I'll get into. But
so in my production notes, the leather jacket that Cassetti wears, or Mr. Ratchet, I guess, is the one item that they did buy.
Oh,
they did not produce on site. So many of the costumes many of the costumes in this, I forget what's her name.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer said that many of the costumes that they used in this production were made on site. Like 10 to 20% were purchased, but like elements. But most of it was produced because the 1920s, like this era, the 10, 20, 30s, was very difficult to just purchase costumes for. Well, because especially for this echelon of
society,
raingoers, society, like the costumes had to be character fulfilling, but also not cartoonish, like you mentioned, but also not bland. So they produced the jacket was one of the few items that they did buy just to level that kind of attraction.
Well, I was gonna say this. I was gonna save this for later, but just in case I forget, apparently it was an intentional choice to not make the costumes look costumey. That was like the exact wording that they used. For me, it wasn't until like we see
to me. How would you even
costumey? Yeah, costume with a Y.
To me,
we see a final shot of them at the big reveal, all sitting together. And it was at that point that I thought to myself, the costumes in this movie aren't great. I wasn't a fan.
Really?
I didn't like them. I'm sorry. And it was an intentional...
No, I'm coming back to...
It was an intentional choice
yes.
to not make them look as theatrical. Whereas The 1974 version really leaned into making them look as glamorous as possible, and they stood out that way. But I know we have more to talk about that later. Michelle Pfeiffer as Mrs. Hubbard / Linda Arden. You know, Michelle Pfeiffer will always be my Catwoman. She is the best, the greatest Catwoman ever. Yes, 100,000%. And I feel like she does steal every scene that she's in this movie.
I don't agree with the Batman.
I'm sorry, you would take Anne Hathaway as your Catwoman?
No. Who's the singer?
Singer.
I can't think of her name right now.
In what?
Eartha Kitt.
Oh, she was Catwoman.
It was Catwoman in the original Batman.
But I'm talking about But she was in the TV series. I'm talking like movie. No.
TV. Okay, do you understand the TV series was where it was at?
I understand.
With Andrew West and Burt Ward, like that was the.
But maybe you didn't grow up with Batman Returns like I did, where I can still watch that. Stop it. Shh.
We're gonna save that for later.
I can still watch Batman Returns to this day.
Batman Returns is terrible.
Oh, for me, it was the one everybody hated, but it was the one I've listened to.
Honest.
Now I firmly believe this is a quick side, but
save that for when we review Batman.
For me, Tim Burton is by far and away not my favorite director.
Don't listen.
I do think he is the right director for a Batman movie.
No, he is.
Yeah. Let's get into Daisy Ridley.
I just want to say she stole the show. She was every shot she was in. She took the camera away from the audience.
I feel like Michelle Pfeiffer was one of the few who cared about her role in this movie.
She sang the closing song.
Oh, I have a note about that later.
Oh, we're talking about.
And as much as I love Michelle Pfeiffer, maybe just stick to acting.
Oof.
Sorry.
Oof. Are we going to talk about that?
We'll talk about it later. Daisy Ridley as Mary Debenham.
Oh, can I talk about my favorite behind the scenes story from this movie?
Was this all the reels you sent me?
No, that was with Josh.
Josh Gad.
Josh Gad. So my favorite behind the scenes was upon meeting Daisy Ridley for the first time, Johnny Depp asked her if she was in Star Wars, to which Ridley said yes. Depp told her he hadn't seen any of the movie yet, but had planned on it because he was a Peter Cushing fan, referring to Peter Cushing in the digitally recreated Rogue One.
Wait. Not referring to him as 1977?
Referring to the digitally recreated version of him in Rogue One. At which point, Ridley then politely explained that she wasn't in that film. She wasn't in Rogue One. She was in Force Awakens. To which Johnny Depp said, "Oh." And walked away.
That sounds right. That sounds about right.
Which I love. My favorite point about this behind the scenes casting of this movie is it's not even related to the movie.
It's not. Because I think The Last Jedi was coming out the month after this movie was released. Because this came out in November 2017.
2017?
Last Jedi came out in December, right? 2017. Yeah, Daisy Ridley in this, I feel like they were trying to show that she was marketable beyond Star Wars. And she's fine as generic, nice English woman.
I think she played my favorite version of Mary Debenham.
See, for me, it's Jessica Chastain from the version. Yeah, because Mary Debenham is more of a complex character than people realize in the book, and I feel like Jessica Chastain was the only one to get that across. That she wasn't just, I'm a nice governess, you know.
The Jessica Chastain, the first version that I saw, felt like she was actually playing with Poirot. Like throughout this, like she actually chastised him a couple of times, mentioning things that he should have been aware of. And
but she does that. I mean, Rothstein did that too. Jessica Chastain has this whole back and forth in them, like, no, I hated what happened. You liked what happened to that woman who was stoned, and Jessica Chastain has genuine conflict with him, whereas Daisy Ridley is just like, no.
I feel like Jessica Chastain's like was incredulous as to Poirot's understanding of the information. Whereas in Daisy Ridley, she's like, this is what I gave off. Oh, that's what you thought. Oh.
I feel like they were trying to give Daisy Ridley more stuff to do in this one. Like, no, I know, like, we can get some good stuff out of her.
I feel like she was the one actress of all the murderers. Spoiler alert. That actually they tried to give some screen time. Because all the other...
We'll get to that.
They just... They shafted them. All of them.
All right. Now, don't hate me for moving along. But we've got Leslie Odom Jr. as Colonel / Dr. Arbuthnot. Now, they combine the two characters of the Doctor and the Colonel, Arbuthnot, which, again, I'm not a fan of combining those two characters. I feel like the Doctor served a maybe not totally necessary, but still a good role in the book of just being a separate character. Yes, we need like a neutral Doctor.
And let's just put it on the table. I do not like mixing characters, especially because Agatha Christie specifically wrote this novel with separate characters in mind. So the second you start, whatever the reason, whether it be for screen time or credit or storyline, it doesn't matter. The second you start changing core elements, you start changing dialogue and evidence. Yep. More than anything, you start changing the evidence because the Doctor was not in the book. He was not in on it at all.
Right.
He was a fully third-party character.
Now, Leslie Odom Jr. was also in Glass Onion.
He was.
And it took me until this movie to come to the conclusion that I don't think he's a great actor. Now, I think people love him because he was in Hamilton. And that's great.
I'll give you that.
That's fantastic. I love that for you. Love that.
He was in Hamilton.
For me, I'm like, whoa, wait, are all the movies we review connected somehow?
No, it's not a conspiracy.
Glass Onion on the Orient Express. And they
terrible movie.
Now they use Leslie Odom Jr.'s race as a plot point in this movie. We'll get to that.
Let's just put it out there now because we will be talking about it later.
Move on to, and I feel like they use it to an okay degree. I'll get to that.
Okay. We're just going through the cast.
Penelope Cruz.
Still only at the cast.
Yes. Penelope Cruz as Pilar Estrevados. Now, the name of this character replaces the name of the Swedish nurse from the book, Greta Olsen. And now she's from Spain. This name, Pilar Estrevados, is the name of a separate character from another Poirot story, Hercule Poirot's Christmas. When I first saw this, Penelope Cruz wasn't memorable for me at that time. But when I rewatched it this time around, I actually loved her, I have to say. And she's not given a ton to do, like most of this cast, but she does great with what she is given to do.
Yeah. I want to talk about Josh Gad playing Hector.
Let's talk. What are your thoughts? Because I'm curious. Because I do have thoughts.
I'm conflicted. I'm really conflicted because Josh Gad is not who I portrayed playing McQueen. The McQueen I had in mind was more the one from the 78 version with David
Anthony Perkins.
Him. Like, that is the kind of McQueen that I had in mind. Josh Gad kind of always plays the
comic relief.
The comic relief, the chubby set sidekick. Oh, was that out loud?
That was out loud. The goal line, yeah.
That kind of role, but for him to play this kind of almost main character,
a serious role, yeah.
Which was refreshing. I think it was great practice for him. As an actor, I don't think he met the role because the way this movie played it was more of a alcohol addicted
embezzler.
Embezzling.
You sent me all those reels of him.
I did. Did you watch them?
I watched like 2 of them. And I was like, all right, I get the point.
Okay, so So throughout the production, he would hound Daisy Ridley with Star Wars questions because during this whole production, they were filming Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then he would go up to Daisy and be like, "Oh, who's your parents? Who's, what?" And she would have to keep tight-lipped. So it became a meme. It became a joke. It became such a farce on the whole. So throughout the years, and I mean, like years later, the reels I sent you were sent in like
2019. Yeah.
They were literally years later after production that they were making fun of her, like asking questions about it. She would keep quiet about it. It was actually impressive on Daisy Ridley's part, but I think partly because she didn't even know.
Neither did the writers.
The one clip I had J.J. Abrams.
Yes, I saw.
Asking.
I didn't see that.
Comical.
For me, Josh Gad, I will only ever know him as Olaf from Frozen. I know he had a couple of big Broadway roles, but there was something about him here that I just wasn't feeling it, and I feel like he doesn't have the cadence, or not the cadence, but like the stage presence for a period piece, if that makes sense. And I feel the same way.
He didn't have the
like I can only picture him in modern roles, and I felt the same way about Johnny Depp. Like I can't picture Johnny Depp in a period piece. I can only picture him in modern day roles. So maybe that was my conflict there. But I want to move on to Willem Dafoe as Hardman. Now, fantastic. Now, listen, maybe I'm biased because I will never complain about seeing Willem Dafoe in anything. I think just his voice alone, that man could read the dictionary, and I would give him an Academy Award. And you know what I love about Willem Dafoe, too? He minds his own business. He intentionally does not really comment much on politics. He has even stated that he thinks as an actor, there are other people more qualified to do so. And I wish more celebrities would take that stance. That's a whole other topic.
It's a different topic.
But I freaking love Willem Dafoe.
What are you about to say? No, as a human being, I agree. Like I don't follow him on social media or anything. But
I don't think he even has social media.
Know that he kind of declines for opinions on political matters and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yes.
Whereas there are other actors that I do follow that I'm like, oh, that's awesome, and then they make some really strong opinioned suggestions or
yeah, I know what you mean.
a post about political or social, and you're like, all right, I follow you as an actor and nothing more. Okay.
Yes. I wish that celebrities could just be celebrities and not politicians. But anyway,
that's
but I thought he was great in this movie. I thought he was great, but maybe
that's an actor for his sequences did fantastic. It was weird to have him in a not even tertiary role. Like the detective in this doesn't pop up until the latter quarter of the book.
I think in the book he gets called back one time. Like he has two interviews.
And then eventually Poirot was like, look, you're not who you say you are. You're a cop. You're a police. Tell me. And then he comes, and actually in the book, he brings forth evidence. Like he brings to Poirot 2 or 3 points where he's like, hey, have you thought about this? And Poirot was like, no, bring it. Let me think about it. So to have William Dafoe in this kind of like...
Be careful, it's not William, it's Willem.
Willem?
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe kind of play this, not even secondary, like tertiary role is weird because he is such a great actor.
Yeah.
And he only has
like
5 shots on screen.
He only has like one significant scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have to move on. Dame Judi Dench as the Princess Dragmiroff. She's one of those, again, I will never complain about. She did amazing. Did amazing.
Yes. I will have nothing but positivity about her.
She's, again, one of those who she's not given much to do, but what she is given to do, she does the most with. Samantha and I, we watched Skyfall a week or two ago. And, she was one of, Samantha's favorite points from that movie. Olivia Colman as Hildegard Schmidt, Fraulein Schmidt. She is basically given nothing to do, which is surprising because Olivia Colman is an Oscar-winning actress. I think she won an Oscar the year after this movie. she leaves like no impression here for me, which is crazy because I know she is a great actor.
Which is weird because for being such a good actor and she had quite a bit of screen time, not a lot of dialogue, but very like a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
To have her play such a visible role, it was kind of odd.
Yeah. Marwan Kenzari as Pierre Michel. I'm sorry, completely forgettable for me in this movie. Yeah. He would.
They talked about him like he meant something multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times throughout the film, and then every time it felt so throwaway.
I feel like you could count his number of lines on one hand. He would later go on to play Jafar in the live-action Aladdin adaptation, apparently.
But it was the live action.
Yeah, no.
Like, nobody doesn't matter.
Lucy Boynton as the Countess Andreynis. I always confuse her with Emma Roberts, this actress. Oh, what are you guys?
No, the whole Andreynis arc, I give them an arc.
I hate how they handle the Andreynis here. I really hate, yeah.
Did not like it at all.
Yeah.
Because they made him a martial artist, an angry, non-speaking, violent, and she was a drug addict, shaking, shriveling weakling?
Well, let's move on to him, because I thought she did fine with what she was given.
As an actress, she did fine with the role she was given.
So this is the last role. Sergei Polunin as the Count Andreynis. They've, for some reason, made him a dancing boxer. Yeah, just like not realistic.
I do not understand.
And I think that was to incorporate the actor's ballet dancing background. He's from Russia himself. Now listen, fair warning, if you Google this man, he is quite problematic. And I'm confused and curious as to how he got cast in this movie. But
Frankly,
I'll just leave that now you to join him.
I've never seen him, and all of a sudden he starts bashing in reporters' heads within the first 15 to 5?
Well, so yeah, like in his first, yeah.
What am I watching?
Yeah.
And they talk about him like you're supposed to know him, and then he plays no significant role in the movie. Not even through the end. He is literally a side character through this whole thing. And then his wife says everything for him. And anyway,
I'll leave it to you to
that
Google.
whole role is just so upsetting.
I'll leave it to you to Google this guy. But that is at long last the end of the cast. We got to get into the plot. But before we get there, let's take a break. That's a breather. Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we are going to dissect the first act of this glorious dumpster fire of a movie. We'll see you soon.
So, we are now back to reviewing the actual meat of the film.
I know, we're finally getting into it.
Characters, we're an hour and a plus in.
So, fair warning, most of my biggest complaints are from the first act of the movie. I won't have much more to say for the rest of the movie. But,
okay, I'll be honest, my notes for this movie are a bit scattered. Because it was very difficult to maintain notes throughout the movie, throughout the scenes, for the storyline overall.
Well, so it's more, my notes are more by plot point. So the movie begins, Poirot is in Istanbul, and this boy brings him his breakfast. 2 eggs, which are to be of the exact same size. Now, the
graphics in this opening sequence are gorgeous. They're fantastic. The opening bit, the wailing wall, and then straight into the little boy running with the little eggs.
Right. Now, this was not taken from the book. It was not taken from any book. Apparently, it was this bit of Poirot needing to have his breakfast be 2 eggs of exactly the same size came from a newsletter written by Hercule Poirot that Agatha Christie would send out to her fans, where it was stated that he would have his breakfast be 2 eggs of exactly the same size. In this movie, I'm sorry, those eggs are very clearly different sizes. You don't need to be Hercule Poirot to realize that.
Multiple times too. This was multiple times. I don't think it's very hard. In a dozen eggs, you usually have 2 eggs, not of exact proportions, but of exact size.
Pretty close, and it's an ongoing point throughout this.
That's
movie.
a point, and we've seen this bit in previous movies and films and episodes and stuff. But in this, it's just overly dramatized.
It's referenced in the David Suchet adaptation too. He loves his breakfast.
Eventually, he I don't know. He blames the chicken. He blames the kid that's boiling. They're perfectly cooked the whole time, and our main actor just demands perfection from his breakfast.
Yeah. And it also leads later, he is called to, like, the lieutenant or sergeant, whatever, says, okay, I know this is really important and all, but we need your help on this case. And on the way, Poirot steps in some doo-doo, which leads to our very first just, oh, so progressive change. Poirot likes to have things in order. Therefore, he must have obsessive-compulsive disorder. Now listen. Even David Suchet thought that he must have OCD as well. And I can see how on the surface you might think, oh, Poirot just must be OCD. But it just drives me nuts, not just in this movie, but in movies and TV shows in general, where just because a character likes things a certain way or likes to have things in a certain order, then they automatically must be OCD. And that is what leads so many people to self-diagnose themselves as OCD these days.
Okay, to be fair, I mean, you have your own OCD tendencies. And I use that word very liberally, tendencies. However, in this, they almost put him in a box. They put Poirot.
I'm out. You can handle it the rest of it yourself.
All right, bye-bye.
Sorry, I just have to go make sure my sheets are perfectly folded and perfectly creased.
Like, you have your tendencies, but I think people that don't have OCD look at people that do, and they're like, oh, everything must be symmetrical. Oh, everything must be perfect. And it's like, okay, do you understand that this is not a disease? It's not contagious. They're not wrong.
Well, I wouldn't mind
eat things in a certain way.
I wouldn't mind this change if they went a little further with it and showed how actually crippling true obsessive compulsive disorder can be, where it could like even prohibit somebody from even leaving their house, but it's just played for humor and kind of a one-off in like the grand scheme. Oh, Poirot, he stepped in doo-doo, so his other foot needs to touch doo-doo as well. Therefore, he's OCD.
I'd rather not comment on the entire society's view of OCD, but I feel like this whole sequence of him and his idiosyncrasies, and him and society's view of him was better. But you do see kind of an initial character assessment of him. There's a couple of scenes where he says, oh yeah, send the guard down to the southwest corner. And you're like, okay. And then he puts his cane in the wall. And you're like, okay. And then throughout his progressive instigation, they have this weird plot line about a sacred relic being stolen from a religious site. And it becomes this big hoopla between different religious factions. And then Poirot is brought in to solve the case. And he's like, oh, the policeman did it. Right. And then the policeman runs to the south end where the guard is already at. And then the policeman runs into his cane, which he had already put up, so that way he would run into the cane and drop. So it's this completely farcical scenario simply to establish that Poirot is smart and he is intelligent and that he has an innate sense about human nature, about idiosyncrasies in crime, and you're like, okay, all of this could have been summed up with, I don't even know.
I understand what they were doing, and I don't blame them. Like, I feel like any good detective movie should do this. Start by establishing why this detective is a good detective.
Character establishment.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this. I think it's supposed to be funny, but it's just not, because again, I do believe Kenneth Branagh is not a great actor. But he's like, oh, while I was waiting very impatiently, very disappointedly for my breakfast, but you do not need to know this. I remember when I watched this with my friend who had never seen it before, I laughed. I was like, ha! But then I realized, wait, I'm forcing myself to laugh. This is not actually, he's not actually funny. But then he has this follow-up scene with the lieutenant.
Yeah.
Inspired by the book. The lieutenant asks him, how did you know? How did you figure that out? And I'll give the movie this. It is a very clean way to establish Poirot's perspective on life, where he says there is right, there is wrong, there is no in between. It's fine.
To be fair, like in our reviews, multiple movies have tried to attribute this storytelling, this kind of I don't mean like character attribution. The fact that and this was the first movie that I think did it like cleanly. They're like, all right, Poirot's like, yes, there is right, there is wrong, and there is nothing in between. And this was the first time that you're like, all right, I agree with that. In previous, I was actually listening to our podcast earlier. I was the previous movie with
David Suchet.
not David Suchet, the other one.
Oh, Albert Finney.
The whole bit there with the stoning and stuff, and you're like, that's a bit much.
No, that was David Suchet. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, that was
David Suchet was the stoning. Yeah.
You're like, okay, that's a lot to try to just force the audience into accepting.
And in that one,
wrong.
And in that one, Poirot was so callous about it. Like, so I ain't be caring. Yeah.
Whereas in this, you kind of see his emotional attachment of like, no, there's right and there's wrong, and you kind of see this not ambivalence, but this balance, this harmony towards consistency and balance and things.
We then get our initial characters introduced, just as in the book, Mary Debenham and Colonel Arbuthnot. Now, we have this scene with Colonel/Dr. Arbuthnot dealing with the staff of the boat who are handling his luggage. And he says, I am a doctor. I am going this place and this place. And then he says, I am shouting at you in English, and now I am doing it louder and slower. Let me just help you. I will help you. This is a prime example of a shoehorned in extra moral lesson that this movie is trying to sprinkle in to modernize it. It just plays off like after he says that, I am shouting at you in English, and now I am doing it louder and slower. What I did was wrong, and you shouldn't do that either with people who do not have English as their native language. Like, I don't know because the thing is, this is supposed to take place in 1934. People were not this self-aware in 1934. They weren't.
I'm keeping my mouth shut on my opinions, but yes.
I hated it.
Yes. Okay, with watching through the lens of 2025, you're like, oh, that's nice. Then taking off the lens and being like, no, wait, this is 1935 in Istanbul.
I have fun in life later, yeah.
That's not historically accurate for a black doctor in the British Empire serving in Istanbul. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Poirot meets Mary Debenham, and he is able to, for lack of a better word, decipher that she is a governess. Now, I really absolutely hate when writers equate being a good detective with being psychic. Or that being a good detective just means you're hyper observant. Like when he meets Debenham, he's somehow able to guess that, oh, and I take it you are a governess. Or when He arrives and he's like looking at the bread. Then he's interrupted. He's like, "Oh, let me guess. It is the whatever, the whatever case." Poirot, as we know him in the books and in the very faithful television series, he does not do this. He does not just divine as soon as somebody walks into the room like, "Let me guess, you are here to find the person who murdered your husband." I hate it because it's such a lazy way to write detectives. And I think that was a big complaint that people had about the Sherlock British BBC series, that, hyper observant just means you're a good detective. I also love the Sherlock series.
Okay, to be fair, one of my biggest pet peeves is when we were, Jesse and I did a road trip a couple months ago, and we drove back and we listened to The Murder at Styles. And that was fantastic because you had all the evidence, and in real time you had the evidence given with Poirot, and he reasoned through like, this made sense and that made sense, this didn't make sense, and you're like, that's a good point. And then later on you got more evidence and you're like, oh wait, that connects with this and that. Whereas with Sherlock, there was one, I forget the name of it, but it was about a murder in a swamp, and the son got murdered, and you're like, oh, it had to be this and this and this. And then later on, Sherlock came in, and you're like, if you had noticed, there was this completely irrelevant, he was married to this lady at this port that you had no semblance of knowing in the book. And you're like, all right, well, that makes sense, but now I feel stupid.
Well, that's
the evidence you gave me excluded that.
Well, that's kind of like the Glass Onion conundrum. Like they, when they do the big reveal, it's based off of things that you had no way of knowing. Agatha Christie does a great job in the books. You can verify everything. You can go back and look and see, oh wait, the seed was planted there.
Conan Doyle, say what you will, he was not a good, and I feel like writing is one of the special places where it's difficult.
Because Arthur Conan Doyle.
People have the paperback. They can flip through it and be like, you didn't say that, or you said that. Whereas, anyway, Agatha Christie, again, hats off.
Yeah. We have the sequence of everybody boarding the train. I don't mind this sequence, the kind of chaotic energy of everybody rushing onto the train.
This felt natural for a train boarding.
This is how it feels.
I do think it was a little crazy how short a time period it covered, though.
Yeah.
Because, typically, a train, if you go to a plane, I'm at the gate an hour before the plane loads.
At least. Yeah.
And these people are running up. I mean, with
the government shutdown, you better be there 3 hours early right now.
Okay, we're not talking about
sorry.
that.
But my only complaints about the boarding sequence is because it's more chaotic and rushed. It does prohibit proper introductions to all of the characters. In the 1974 version, it takes its time a little more. We get, proper introductions for each of the suspects. But there are things to appreciate about this boarding sequence, like when Mrs. Hubbard, Michelle Pfeiffer, boards the train, and they do this very long shot of her walking through the train with Poirot, and she's just telling him about herself. I actually kind of like this. It can be kind of visually confusing, but they follow the two of them the whole time. She memorizes this whole monologue for the whole time. I actually liked how they did it.
Now, I want to talk about this a little bit later. Some of the long shots that they have in this film are fantastic.
Yes.
Which, I can't think of the guy's name, but he did similarly in Dunkirk. We're talking
the cinematographer?
I'm blanking hard right now.
Yes.
Yeah. But let's stay focused on this film. Some of the long shots they had, especially with boarding the train, that sequence took 3 minutes at least.
Yeah.
And between the long shots and everything, between the dialogue and the characters and the acting, the whole thing felt immersive.
Yes. Yeah.
And which takes really good actors. Typically, you only see such production value from Broadway actors.
Well, you think, especially in the long shot of Mrs. Hubbard and Poirot walking down the train, everybody has to know their mark as well. That's the thing that not many people think about. But everybody it seems pretty seamless. I want to
The
talk.
thing is, a good lineup and a good sequence like that should be seamless.
Yeah, and I think this cast is experienced enough to do that and pull it off. I had to laugh at Johnny Depp as Ratchet here when
Why?
he tells Masterman, the butler, "Oh, I want you to get the receipts from the Milan sale." I think that's what he says. I laughed at his line read of, like, well after Masterman is gone and, like, out of the shot, Johnny Depp's like, "I want you to get it done. I want you to get it done now."
I was like, why? I thought it was kind of funny because it looked like he was walking down the hall backwards, and he was just like throwing gangster signs. Like, "I want you to do it. I want you to do it now." So at that point, like, you don't know if Masterman is like still on the screen.
But apparently he is there because then Johnny Depp pulls a gun on him at the end. He's like, "You get what I mean?" I said, it kind of comes across as like your cousin who's trying to act tough and petulant. Yeah, I don't know.
Sequence, in retrospect, is extremely comical.
Now then, once everybody is on board the train and settled in, and we are on our way.
Let's just jump through this whole thing. The sequence, the train leaves, people are waving from the rooftops like this is the first train they've ever seen in their life.
It's like the Titanic setting sail, yeah.
And eventually we're like chugging through the valleys and the mountains. Cut inside the train, Ratchet finds a note written to himself, about you will pay. I forget what it says. It's like, you will pay.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Eventually he meets Mrs. Hubbard. He flirts. She shuts him down. One of my favorite things is Mr. What's his name? The director.
Book.
No, not
Pierre Michel.
Who else? The director, the actor, the
Tom Bateman.
Tom Bateman.
Book.
Tom Bateman? No.
Tom Bateman plays Book.
Not Book.
Who are you talking about?
Poirot.
Poirot? Kenneth Branagh.
Him. So he even said that this scene with Johnny Depp and Michelle Pfeiffer plays out like a movie that would be played inside a movie of this era.
I actually...
Dialogue, this whole sequence is something that you would see in a movie of this time. Which I kind of like.
Yeah. I did like this scene with Michelle Pfeiffer and Johnny Depp when Mrs. Hubbard is talking to Mr. Ratchet, because you can tell she is seething with hatred for this man underneath. And I thought it was very well played. But this leads us to presenting another thing that absolutely nobody on this planet asked for. Poirot has a tragic backstory and a lost love.
Wait. We talked about, we see two sequences, three sequences with this that are just so out of character, out of sequence, out of film.
Now let me ask you a question.
It's confusing. At best?
Let me ask you a question. Do you know Poirot's backstory as revealed in the books?
Let's say no. Let's say I know nothing.
Neither does anybody else. Agatha Christie very intentionally did not reveal much about Poirot's past or backstory beyond the fact that he was a police officer before becoming a detective. We really don't know much beyond that. Because the thing is, Poirot is interesting enough as a character without us needing to know his backstory. We already know he's an interesting and compelling guy. And beyond that, but because we are in a generation of filmmaking where we need everything explained to us by means of a backstory, they had to shoehorn this in. Oh yes, Poirot has lost love. And they extend this throughout the next couple of films that Kenneth Branagh makes. And it does not accomplish much. And besides that, of all of the backstories to give Poirot, we're just going with the generic lost love storyline.
Which they never explain and they never go into.
Well, just wait, my friend, until you see Kenneth Branagh's adaptation of his adaptation of Death on the Nile. It is it's delightfully stupid. It's so stupid. But
I need a break.
oh my god! Well, listen,
Get through this.
I just have a couple more notes on this first act. Everybody's having lunch on the train the next day, and I had mentioned before about them trying to shoehorn in extra moral lessons in this movie, particularly around the subject of race. When Cyrus Hardman says, "I do not want to be seated with that man."
Oh, you mean William Dafoe?
Not William. And he says, you know, to mix your red wine with the white would be to ruin them both.
This whole sequence.
And Daisy Ridley mixes her wines and she says, I like a nice rosé. It's also really stupid to me because when you see the whole movie through, you realize, wait, aren't you all just pretending?
Oh, you're right. It is Willem.
Yeah. I know. I don't. Now, to be fair, I only learned that like maybe a year or two ago. But when
I'm sorry, William, I will now say your name right, Willem.
But when Daisy Ridley mixes her wines and she says, "I like a nice rose," it's wow, yeah, snappy.
Slams it and then walks down in front of the dining hall like everyone just saw her do it.
But when you think about it, everyone around them, besides Poirot and Book, aren't they all just playing pretend for each other? What was the point of this? Like, I just imagine them planning this all out and Cyrus Hardman saying, oh, wait, and I'll pretend to be like a racist. And I'll just like make a remark. And then you can do this with your wife. Like, who are they acting for? You're all just around each other. What's the point? Apart from inserting this extra moral lesson.
Wait.
Explain it to me.
I just...
Now,
I feel like this is an episode of Blue's Clues where you're trying to instill valuable moral lessons in children, and instead you're trying to shoehorn them into adults, which should know better.
I did enjoy when Book is going around giving everybody champagne, and he goes to give Penelope Cruz the missionary champagne, and she says no. He says, oh, it doesn't agree with you, and she says, sin does not agree with me. And he says, we should no longer speak. I did like that. I did laugh at that. Now then, Ratchet makes his offer to Poirot. Now, actually, sorry. Book, I think, out of these three adaptations, is the only one to be faithful to the novel, where he says, isn't there something compelling about all these strangers trapped in a place with nothing in common but the need to get to one destination?
To be fair, this is the first adaptation that I think takes the time to just in the dining car, just in the dining. Because the one thing about Agatha Christie is that she knew her space.
Right.
Like, she obviously understood the space that she was writing within. So her whole sequence here about Book describing the people and the atmosphere and the energy, they captured within this sequence between describing the people, and it builds this kind of intrigue, this romance, this novelization about the train, at which point Ratchet kind of flips the table. She's like, Poirot, and Johnny Depp, this whole sequence, it actually took him 3 days to film. Between improvisation, between the actual
script.
I always forget who plays Poirot in this.
Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh said that Johnny Depp has one of the most brave faces when it comes to eating on camera. One of the few things that actors hate to do on camera.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp does not. So they had
He's so like delightfully disgusting.
He is Johnny Depp, if you're listening, you are delightfully disgusting.
I know.
I sometimes take that as a compliment. So this whole sequence,
They share the piece of cake.
They share an apple.
They do keep Poirot's line from the book, which I think I had mentioned in the previous podcast.
I am so glad they kept it. So glad.
Hang on.
Pull it up. Break out the book. Because
wait, pause, follow my pause.
I don't want to work with you. Oh, is it a matter of money?
Yes.
No, I have wealth. I don't need money. Oh, well, you just must be, and this was the first book that Poirot was like, I do not like your face.
Okay, now, please, nobody make fun of me for just getting the easy Amazon versions of these books, okay? I'm collecting on a budget, and I'm doing the best I can. But this is the only adaptation to keep Poirot's line from the book on the last page of chapter 3, where Poirot refuses Ratchet and says, if you will forgive me for being personal, I do not like your face, Mr. Ratchet. That's from the book.
Which now they don't go into other discussions. I think it was with McQueen in the book. They talk about he had an animalistic glint in his eye.
Now we do have to move along. I'm sorry, but
do we though?
They do make one change in this adaptation, whereas in the other adaptations and in the book, Poirot is asleep throughout the duration of the actual murder.
Should be fair.
Here he is wide awake and somehow doesn't hear a sound, but they make it work. And when they discover Ratchet's body the next morning, they make this weird production decision to make the camera completely aerial throughout the entire sequence, and it doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't provide us with, I don't know, any good perspective. It's just annoying to watch.
I'm gonna just cut you off. Throughout this entire production, they decided to use an AA over the head, and I think honestly, they just wanted to show off the set that they had built.
Yeah.
Because they had obviously built the entire train car without a roof. And they filmed the entire thing, which gave you a little bit of continuity between the rooms. But overall, it was just
confusing.
It was confusing.
Get out of my head. Get out of my head.
Honestly, there were a couple of scenes in this movie I felt carsick.
Yeah. And I think
of this.
Because I think at first it's like, oh, it looks cool. But then when you actually think about it, it's like, wait, why? And there are a few when Poirot informs the rest of the passengers that there's been a murder, he says, and if there was a murder, then there is a murderer. Now, this is a prime example of Kenneth Branagh's directing and his movies looking and sounding cool at first, but then when you just spend more than 5 seconds thinking about it, you realize that's kind of a stupid thing.
That is absolutely stupid.
Yes, duh. And
which makes me Star Wars Clone Wars, they have, if there's a farm, there's a farmer.
Wow, thank you. I didn't realize that.
Incredible logic.
I did actually appreciate Penelope Cruz in this scene where he informs the rest of the passengers that there's been a murder. And she goes through this mini monologue, and then she says, or if like Lucifer, we must fall.
Which, to me, I was like, that was random.
It was kind of a missed opportunity for someone to be like, okay.
It said, and it hung for so long, and then you're like, is no one going to comment on the fact that she is experiencing an extreme a moral dilemma?
It's intense, yeah.
Because, as a viewer, as somebody that's seen one of the previous books and movies and stuff, you look at that and you're like, I know what she's talking about. But then as a new viewer, I'm thinking about somebody that, if this was their first time watching this, you'd be like, haha,
okay,
that was weird.
Yeah. But
it's a creepy.
Yeah. Well, that leads us to the end of Act 1, folks. let's take a break.
You want to call that Act 1?
Yeah, I think.
I think that's...
Yeah. When we come back, we are going to delve into the investigation, and boy, is it a wild ride. So take a bathroom break, get a snack, and we'll be right back.
Get ready. And now we enter into Act 2.
And this is where it gets kind of bonkers. For starters, Poirot, why are you walking on top of the train?
It just... that's where you're going to start?
That's where I'm going to start because while the other adaptations make good use of the closed door whodunit setting and really leaning into the claustrophobic feel of this entire story, this adaptation finds any excuse it can to get off the train. Whether it's Poirot walking on top of the train or conducting interviews off of the train.
I feel like a good... This is the first adaptation to portray an avalanche sequence. Typically, most of the other adaptations have the train runs into a snowdrift or runs into an issue or something that they have to stop there.
But I'm sorry, this whole avalanche sequence
The first one to have an avalanche actually like attack, like crash land on top of the train.
But the whole avalanche looks so delightfully fake to me. I just couldn't take it seriously.
Well, from the mountain peak, you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. And then by the time it hit the train, it just took the train and went,
Now, they find a couple other reasons that Poirot needs to solve this case in-house, closed door. Not only because it would be a bad look for the train company, but book also says when the police arrive, they'll probably just arrest the black man.
in the words of Cry Wilderness, whoa! You went there?
They went there.
I'm like, bro, you immediately, that's your first, they're just going to arrest that guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, to me, okay, I understand when they were choosing to make Arbuthnot a black man. That is maybe an effective way to utilize that change in the plot point. But yeah, it's
to be fair, in the original book, they didn't do much better at concealing like race or nationality, and they're like, oh, we're gonna go to this country and that those cops are not gonna be very nice, and to be fair, like there was a lot of bias towards national heritage and police efficientness, but in this efficiency. But in this, they just make an open. They're like, they're gonna arrest the black guy.
yeah.
Which is like, all right, well, we need to protect him.
Gives a clear reason why we need to do the investigation ourselves.
So now the train is stuck. Everyone's stuck in the passenger cars, in the bar cars. Book pulls them in and says, hey, we're stuck here.
You discover Ratchet's body.
Begins complaining about their travel arrangements. They're like, oh, well, I have a speech in this... in Turin, I have a convention, I have a boat to catch. What's her name? She makes a weird statement about the fall of Lucifer.
Oh, Penelope Cruz. Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah.
All of this, Poirot breaks into the room, and he's just kind of like,
I am probably the greatest detective in the world. And
I'm sorry, that was in the original book.
I guess so, yeah.
But in this adaptation, it just feels so arrogant.
It feels more like you?
Forced.
Yeah. Poirot does his trick with the hat box, and he learns that Ratchet was Cassetti.
To be fair, he doesn't use it with the hat box. So in this,
Oh, yeah.
they have this whole farcical, like, well, the train, everyone wakes up and they're like, well, why haven't, they're like, well, how am I? And they was like, well, within 2 hours, we haven't arrived at this other station. So then they're going to have sent out rescue crews. So the rescue crews are like starting to shovel out the train. and they have lanterns, and the lanterns has metal gaskets.
We have the snow grow, yeah.
So there's no hat boxes, which I feel like is such an intrinsic part of the book that they do away with, which other adaptations have done.
Yeah.
So in this, they kind of sideline a whole bunch of originality with the book.
Well, while here, Poirot learns that Ratchet was indeed Cassetti, the man who kidnapped Daisy Armstrong. We have an added element here that Poirot was contacted by Colonel John Armstrong, the father of Daisy Armstrong, to help with the case. But by the time the letter had gotten to Poirot, it was too late. The crime had already been committed. So it's a little way to get Poirot more invested in this case.
He could have saved them. He could have solved them. However,
Fine.
the note that he saw had way more information.
It's Daisy Armstrong's blood is on your hands. You will die. It's a longer note.
But in the original book, I think it was like AZ Armstrong.
AZ Arms.
AZ Arms.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the whole note that they got.
Anyway. Yep. And so begin the interviews / interrogations.
Which seemed so haphazard.
They're more rushed. And I will say,
This sequence, it felt so haphazard.
some of them are done in a more, slowed down fashion with like Michelle Pfeiffer or what's his name who played Masterman. We might not have even mentioned his name actually when we were going through the cast of Rant.
We talked about that earlier.
We so did not mention him.
They, in previous editions, they actually had rewritten his character. So
No, we forgot to mention this actor.
this one, they actually did include him as an original character.
No.
What's his name? The
His name
Fish guy.
is Masterman. Derek Jacobi.
So he plays Masterman.
As Henry Masterman, Edward Henry Masterman. We forgot to mention him earlier. We were in so much trouble. But his interrogation scene is more slowed down. I think it's like the most slowest paced interview of the entire cast. But for most of these interrogations, whereas in the 1974 version, they just bring them in one at a time. They take their time with it. They're just staying in the dining car the entire time. This movie basically has a different location for each interrogation, and
Which some of the characters refer to, like, oh, you're trying to throw me off my game.
Mary Debenham, she says that. She's like, oh, I see Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. I see what you're trying to do, throwing us off our game, like putting us in different areas that we may not be comfortable in.
Choose the best location for each interrogation.
Which Poirot doesn't say anything. So you kind of assume it's planned?
Well, for this, I actually don't mind them doing a different location for each interrogation. I think that is an okay way to modernize it for a modern audience. I just hate when they go off of the train for some of these interrogations, because the whole beauty of this story is the closed door whodunit setting. And while some of these interviews are done in one sequence, one scene, some of them are cut together, and we keep cutting between different interviews between Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe, and who plays the Italian? I think we forgot to mention him in the cast list earlier. Hang on, I have it here. Okay. Oh yeah, Manuel Garcia Rolfo as Benignano Marquez. He is the Italian, the chauffeur. His interview and Penelope Cruz's interview and Willem Dafoe's interview, they are cut between each other.
Felt so... Honestly, I feel like, that's why we skipped over them earlier.
Yeah.
They felt so rushed and so...
Just kind of, it felt like a throwaway. To me, it felt like the movie was telling us, all right, guys, obviously none of these three are the culprits, so let's just get through this and cut their interviews together.
Quite a shame, because they had so much material. They had a lot of story, I feel, invested. to tell. And in the last 3 films that we've watched, they've just been treated as throwaways because obviously the writer, the screenwriter knows that they're not the culprit, so they don't waste any time on them. Yeah. Whereas in the book, they're given full credence.
Everybody is given equal, time to shine.
Right.
And
yes.
And what's puzzling is that Poirot in this adaptation only brings up the Armstrong case to a few of the suspects. So we're not given much to go off of. Like in Judi Dench's interview, it's like, oh, you were the godmother. And we get to see that connection. There are a couple of things that are faithful to the book. For instance, Hildegard Schmidt's interview is conducted entirely in German. That actually is what happened in the book. So there's that. For me, throughout this preliminary interview process, the standouts for me were actually Penelope Cruz.
She did a good job.
And Judi Dench's interviews. Yeah. I think they made the most of what they were given to read for.
Josh Gad. What's his name?
Gad.
Josh Gad. I don't think his interview stood out standalone on its own merit, but because how long it was. And I felt that jar. It was weird because I'm like, I know McQueen isn't. Obviously, I know what happened.
Yeah.
I was like, why are we putting so much emphasis on Gad as this assistant?
Are you talking about when he's fought later on, or his first initial?
He got so much screen time in this film compared to some of the other, compared to Andreynis.
Yeah, well,
people. He had one fight scene early on. She had.
Well, we'll get to yeah.
They had like 2 or 3 scenes, whereas McQueen took so much screen time and so much explanation, and I think part of the process in this was trying to show Poirot didn't know the answer, and I'm trying to rationalize this in my head. Poirot's trying to figure out the mystery as he goes, so he sees McQueen. He's trying to gather the evidence and stuff, but comparatively, the amount of evidence that he has compared to the amount of screen time that he has is not proportional.
We also have this stupid flashback with Penelope Cruz, where she's like, oh, I accidentally stumbled into Ratchet's compartment, which I think did happen in the book. In this, he full on pulls a gun on her. It's so stupid. Daisy Ridley, she's given a longer scene, again, off the train, because this movie's mentality is, oh, if we are going to keep this exciting, we better go off the train as much as we possibly can. She's given a longer interrogation scene. I wish I felt more interested in it, but there's just not as much to do with her character. It doesn't leave as much of an impression for me. I do like Daisy Ridley. But we do get a few delightfully bad things added throughout the investigation. For one, McQueen was apparently embezzling from Cassetti, which leads to this chase sequence that absolutely nobody asked for.
Don't even talk to me about that. That didn't happen. It was a bad dream.
But apparently we've got to use any excuse to get off the train. And Poirot is like fighting tooth and nail, like, tripping him, like, or whatever with his.
I know. This whole sequence, and Jess and I were watching it, and we're like, what is going on? Because there's this one shot out a window, and Poirot's like, oh, it must be him.
McQueen, yeah.
And you're like, who?
No.
And then there's this whole chase, and they go down and it goes on and on.
Now, for me, this is the adaptation that adds more than the other adaptations, where they add in all these other sequences. But for me, everything they add in this movie is completely inconsequential because it goes nowhere. It makes no difference in the final outcome of the big reveal. And there are no actual repercussions. It has zero bearing outcome of the entire film. So why was it added? And
yeah,
like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of Josh Gad. I did appreciate his scene after the fact where they're interrogating him. They're like, why did you do it? Why did you do it? And because it's done in this long shot where it's like slowly zooming in on him.
He's done in a long shot.
I'll give him credit for that.
Like, he does a good job. But his character is, like, the whole bit is just so farcical. It's so forced.
Yeah. And it leads to the doctor, Arbuthnot, standing up and saying, no, it wasn't him. It wasn't him. We're going to just...
Dr. Arbuthnot keeps butting in at the most random time.
Well, I will say...
defend and support and exonerate each suspect.
I will say, Arbuthnot, his sequence here with him defending McQueen does line up with the book. He says, no, he and I were having drinks till, 2 a.m. or something.
2 a.m.
That did happen in the book where it says, oh, we did have some debates. We had some differences in opinion about this. In the movie, he gets more defensive. Poirot says, now, how did you know Mary Debenham? And he says, Mary is a lady. And it's a very touchy subject. But they also make this very weird choice to sequester the Andreynis for basically the entirety of the movie. And
That's what you were saving for?
No, go.
To be fair, I feel like they have this whole sequence at the start of the movie, and they've waited to show anything about them until now.
Yes. And
which at this point we're an hour into the movie plus.
Oh, I have to before we get to the Andreynis, they make another interesting change from the book. Whereas in the book where Mrs. Hubbard supposedly finds the knife, she finds the murder weapon.
Yes. No.
It's
No.
They find it. They do find the knife. They do find the knife. They do find the knife.
I'll let him go. It's fine.
In her back. She was stabbed unexpectedly. And even Samantha, my wife, when we watched this scene, she already knows the outcome of the story. She says, oh, she took one for the team. Good for her. But again, it's a Kenneth Branagh film. So if you just, upon first glance, you think, oh, wow, what an exciting sequence. But then when you start to question the logic for even just 5 seconds, you realize that it doesn't make any sense at all. Because this whole time, all of the suspects are wanting Poirot to believe that this stranger came onto the train, killed Cassetti, and then escaped. So then who are they wanting Poirot to believe stabbed Mrs. Hubbard out of nowhere?
And did it in so... Have you ever stabbed anyone?
No.
Have you ever taken a knife and tried to, with the intent of killing them? Like, the absolute absurdity.
But it's like...
with this whole sequence.
So who do they want Poirot to believe did this? Because in the book, it makes sense that...
because she finds it.
In the book, she just finds the knife in her stuff. And it's just supposed to be simple misdirection. But why go this far? And I will tell you why.
Please, tell me.
Because Kenneth Branagh's philosophy is that as long as it looks cool, it must be good. Don't worry about the logic. Like, so
fair.
It makes for good trailer fodder.
Fair.
It makes for good trailer fodder. Like, oh wow, not only did somebody get murdered, but somebody got stabbed too.
Wow.
So,
which, to be fair, for a trailer, looks awful.
Yeah.
Well,
so
maybe he had his calling in marketing and
maybe
in movie trailers, maybe not so much in full release theatrical film.
So, like I said before, they make this weird choice to sequester the Andreynis for basically the entire movie. They also make her a druggie, for lack of a better word.
Which kind of makes sense in the original book. She talks about...
understandable.
Her nightmares, her not being able to sleep, the Andreynis trying to, like, protect her, and made her kind of this I think in the original they had her have
I forget what it was.
seizures. In the original film, she had seizures and stuff. There was one sequence
I have to find
in the
it.
film where they find However, in this, they just kind of. I appreciated the honesty with they were like, yeah, I have nightmares, so I take this drugs and stuff. And they're like, you know what? If that's all that helps you get sleep. But that leads into Poirot's evidence and stuff. As her being the sister.
Well, so what?
Just so much evidence against her being the sister.
Okay, so
Seems overwhelming.
in the book, it's that she just took something to help her sleep. In chapter 7,
Here we go. Chapter 7.
I know I'm not gonna find it. Oh, Trianol. Yes, she just took some Trianol. Is that how it said? I don't know. I hope it is. But they make it. Oh, she's addicted to Bopital. But the weird choice they make to make them so separate from the rest of the suspects, it makes it so that they don't really feel like part of the ensemble. It's weird to me.
Well, and that's what gets me is in most of the theatrical releases, the Andreynis seem like such a side character. Like, it wasn't them. Whereas in the book, there was this huge bit with the
Handkerchiefs and the passports.
They felt like main characters because each of the 12 had an equal representation in the interrogation.
Yeah.
Where in this, the amount of screen time that they had, that they were nothing more than mere filler.
Well, credit where credit is due. Lucy Boynton as Countess Andreynis
Did an amazing job.
She does a great job with the material that she's given to work with, I will say.
She sold it.
Now, Sergei Polunin.
Can we not talk about it? Can we just skip over it?
I gotta say, he should stick to dancing.
Yeah.
Because his read of How Dare You made me audibly laugh.
Really?
Yes. And I'm going to play it for you because we're right at that scene. Just in case you forgot.
If you do not permit me, your reluctance will be noted to the Yugoslav police, and I have no doubt that they will arrest you.
How dare you! How dare you! How dare you!
There is a grease spot on your watch. You might want to look at that.
One is not well.
If you do not permit me, your reluctance will be noted to the Yugoslav police, and I have no doubt that they will arrest you.
How dare you! Can I play it one more time? Can I play it one more time?
Our poor audience, I'm so sorry, you.
It'll be a lot for me to edit.
If you do not permit me, your reluctance will be noted to the Yugoslav police, and I have no doubt that they will arrest you.
How dare you! I watched it over and over and over again. How dare you! How dare you! Because it's giving. I did not hit her. I did not. Right? Yes, it is. Because somehow after that, Kenneth Branagh was like, yeah, that's the one. That's the take that we're gonna go.
That's the guy right there.
Given what I said about Sergei before, I do not feel bad about making fun of his acting.
He does look like a Slavic. He looks the part.
He gives the rage. That's yeah. But they also decide to reveal that Elena, the Countess Andreynis, is Helena, the sister of Sonia Armstrong.
In this sequence.
Usually they wait until the big reveal to bring that out. But it's just uncovered here, which for me, it's just confusing. It takes away from some of the drama of the big reveal at the end. But also, and it's such an obviously planted clue when she says, "Oh, my governess always wanted me to know capitals."
Oh, I hated that. I hate it.
Yeah.
Because they had put so much emphasis on
So much evidence. Suddenly he's British. Suddenly he's British, folks.
Daisy Ridley being like, oh yeah, my chalk on my elbows and the capitals of geography. Ooh, I'll be darned if they don't know their way in the world.
Yes.
But I'll be darned if they don't know their way in life.
Where they are, yeah.
And you're like, Daisy, just take a chair.
But what gets me,
Sit down.
What gets me is that Daisy Ridley is literally only 2 years older than Lucy Boynton,
Yeah.
and she's supposed to have been her governess.
Governess? I'm a little confused.
Now, I did not have a governess, okay? So I cannot.
I'm sorry, I was too poor
Yes,
to have a governess growing up.
But
usually the governess is a little older.
like your private tutor,
you know?
right? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
The whole bit there was a bit confusing.
Yes.
But obviously a lot of her dialogue was given to Poirot to have evidence for his closing speech.
After this, Mary Debenham is called back for a second interview. And while I do like that they incorporate the 10 unanswered questions from the book, they say, like, Poirot says, I have 10 questions that have yet to be answered. I did appreciate that. What I didn't appreciate...
Respected the fact that they enumerated the 10.
What I didn't appreciate, I'm so sick of this panning over from the bottom or the top of the train to the opposite direction that they have used at least like 5 times in this movie.
At least.
They add so much. I think it makes me think of something we would have done where we use one type of shot and we're like, oh, that looks cool. Let's use that again. They do it.
It's a bit amateurish.
Yes, I think they were trying to find so many ways to be creative.
Well,
yeah.
and to be fair, you can tell I'm sorry, I have a lot of feelings about this movie.
I know.
In the original films, I feel like the ones with Suchet, they just knew they were in a closed compartment. So you kind of got that feel of angry men in a courtroom. You got that claustrophobic, locked room mystery. Whereas in this, they kept saying like, "Oh, let's break out of the train. Let's try to get views over top of it. Let's walk on top of it. Let's walk beside it. Let's walk in the cabin space beside it." And you're like, guys, you're missing the point.
Yes. And this second interrogation with Mary Debenham leads to yet another completely inconsequential sequence that nobody asked for to be added.
Let me think of some adjectives. Confusing.
Superfluous.
Confounding. Superfluous. Unnecessary.
Unwanted.
Unwanted.
Yeah.
Character destroying.
Yes.
Just the whole bit there.
The sequence here is that Arbuthnot did it.
Which, okay.
And it starts with
The
him.
fact that Poirot is interviewing Mary Debenham as being like, I sense that you're a little bit more intelligent than the rest of the group, so I'm going to bounce my 10 questions off of you, which was not in the book.
Yes.
And so he asks the questions to which she has no answer. Not even like, I don't know, intelligent quips or responses or questions. At which points, Dr. Arbuthnot comes out just guns blazing.
Literally, he shoots
On Poirot. Let's just take a pause there for a second. Leslie Odom Jr. shoots Poirot.
Leslie, what are you doing?
With a gun. And he shoots him in the arm, which later on,
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah.
You're a surgeon. You're a doctor. You're a sharpshooter.
But beyond that,
was aimed.
he comes up with this fake explanation like, I did it. You know, John Armstrong was my best friend. Blah, 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 blah. Go, Mary. Go, go, go. And after that, he literally tries to choke Poirot to death. And we have this entire fight sequence where Poirot's cane isn't just functional. It is also a defense, weapon. And while we were watching this, my wife, Samantha, said, now, why are they making Poirot into James Bond?
That is an excellent question.
Let James Bond be James Bond. Let Poirot be Poirot. And she said, is it just so that audiences today would like him? And I said, you are wise beyond your years. You are wise beyond your years. And
I get that reference.
This whole added sequence has no bearing on the final outcome of the movie, because we also see Arbuthnot 5 minutes later, and because Book stopped him for some reason, but then doesn't apprehend him in any way for trying to kill Poirot. He lets him chill with the rest of the suspects. Why? Because we need all 12 suspects here for the big reveal.
Yeah.
Granted, Poirot's like, yeah, I mean, you try to strangle me, but we could, And
now,
so again, I ask.
To be fair, this whole sequence leads up. It gets Book involved with Poirot, and it gets everyone, like, obviously at this point, Poirot has some theories, at which point we're about to enter Act 3 of the solution.
Yes.
The solving of the case. At which point, before we get into that, we're going to take a minor...
No. I just have a couple more things. I promise.
For Act 3?
Yes, because we have this whole sequence added in of Arbuthnot trying to kill or unalive Poirot. On TikTok, they say alive.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yes. So again, I asked...
Let's say. So at this point, Dr. Arbuthnot
tries to
unalive
Poirot.
Dr. Poirot.
And it has no bearing on the final outcome because we see Arbuthnot 5 minutes later and it's like nothing has happened. So again, I ask, why was this put in? Why was this sequence added in? And I will tell you why.
Why?
Because an extra thrilling chase sequence like this looks cool. It looks really cool, and it's going to be really nice to use in a trailer. We can't just leave it to good storytelling and good acting like the previous adaptations. We need another chase scene.
It's about this, Kenneth.
Now, I just want to do...
Come on, Kenneth.
I want somebody...
It's good on trailers, Kenneth.
I want somebody to do an experiment of cutting out all of these extra sequences because it would have no impact on the movie.
To be fair,
and it's such a shame.
I should release it.
And it's such a shame. It's such a shame because that's time that could have been spent fleshing out the characters and giving the actors more time to act. And for the big reveal, we're about to we'll be getting to that. For the big reveal, we of course can't do that on the train, because that would be boring. The passengers need to disembark because the engine is being put back on the track, and that's dangerous.
I don't want to throw scapegoats out there, but Michael Green, Green Lantern.
Yeah,
Michael Green.
But when
had a chance at redemption, you had a chance at redeeming yourself, bringing yourself back to a status, a level of heroism.
Maybe
it's saving this Kenneth monstrosity.
When the passengers are off the train because it's too dangerous for them to stay on board,
that Poirot should brandish a gun and threaten all of the train workers and basically say, we're done when I say we're done.
The staff is like, no, we need to bring them back on. Poirot pulls out his gun. He's like, no, not yet.
He pulls out William Dafoe's gun and he's like, basically, Willem Dafoe, and he's like, "We're done when I say we're done."
And my wife, Samantha, was baffled. She said again, why are they having Poirot do that? Poirot does not hold people at gunpoint. It's so stupid.
Which, to be fair, on a trailer, looks sick. It looks amazing. It looks fantastic. However,
when you just think about it.
Kenneth,
Yes.
dear, sweet Kenny, baby.
Well,
Kenny.
that at long last brings us to Act 3. I don't know about you, Dave, but I need a break before we get into this. Yeah, it's gonna be a wild one. So let's take a break, folks. Take your bathroom break, get a snack, and we're gonna get into the final act when we return.
We welcome you back to the third act of Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version.
The big reveal. Now, just at the start of this, Poirot is monologuing pretty hard. I think part of it was directed to Catherine, his long-lost love that nobody asked for. But also, just take a look when Poirot is approaching the 12 suspects and how disheveled he looks. The real Poirot would never. He would never let himself look this undone.
To be fair, at this point in the movie, I took as a screen goer. Look, I know this is the man that would not take one step foot into a pile of poo-poo without taking a second step foot into a pile of poo-poo just for the symmetry. So at this point, his tie, and throughout this entire closing sequence, his tie is offset, his hair is disheveled, everything is off about him, and you're like, from a cinematic storytelling point of view, all right, this is a man that is broken. This is a man that is
nearing the end of his rope. Yeah.
And like he's just twisted. Everything is just about him is not right.
But what annoys me is this, monologue to himself. So much of it, especially when he says, "It is time to solve this case." So much of this feels like it was catered to making a good trailer. For instance, his line from earlier when he says, "If there was a mother, then there is a murderer." Lines like that, they sound really cool for a trailer, but really dumb in action in the midst of a big movie.
Which leads me to the train tunnel sequence. So Poirot, after brandishing a gun in front of the entire train track support crew, he walks up to this brilliantly designed, which thermodynamically confusing table. They have this table set out at the entrance of the table at the tunnel, just with all 12 suspects set out. And in production notes, this was a homage to
The Last Supper. Very intentional.
This was extremely intentional. They have one actor to the other on the other side, in the tunnel side, and Poirot walking up. He gets to see all of the suspects with a book in the back, with the gun in hand. They get to see all of the suspects in a row.
Now listen, I'm kind of a sucker for Last Supper homages, okay? That's fine.
To be fair, the cinematic, the camera panning, all of them with Poirot walking from the train, it was chef.
Sure.
Yes, it was amazing.
I basically thought to myself, sure, fine, whatever. It looks cool.
Now, to be fair, in the last version, in the 87 version, 74 version, you loved the costuming, the theatrical. This was the only time in this movie that I sat back and said, "This is for the theater."
See,
This is the first time that I said, "This is for the audience."
Now, you thought the costumes and everything looked really cool.
The cinematics, the him walking from the train, the tunnel, the what do you call it? The framing of the 12 against the tunnel arch, everything about it. I was like, this looks like a movie poster.
See, for me, this was the moment when I thought to myself, the costumes are pretty underwhelming.
Wow.
In this movie.
That's all you thought about?
When you saw them all lined up in Last Supper formation, I said, I feel like they could have taken it a step further with the costumes, but I know that he intentionally wanted them to look more authentic.
Okay, at this point, Poirot says, none of you are killers.
He goes through everybody's connection. Arbuthnot, he's like, no, of course you didn't shoot me because you're not a killer. So that's fine. I mean, you did try to choke me, but, it's fine. It's fine.
Attempted murder.
But he goes through, he reveals everybody's connection to the Armstrong case, and he gets to Penelope Cruz and says, you were the nurse. And this was the moment for me when Penelope Cruz breaks down and she says, she was such a, intelligent. And then she starts breaking down. This was the moment when I said, dang it, movie, you got me.
This was the one?
When she has her breakdown. Yep. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, no, I refuse to get invested. I refuse to buy into this. And then he starts going into everybody's connection.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe, he says, the French maid, the falsely accused maid,
yes, was
your girlfriend. And he says, she was so gentle. And my wife, on one hand, said, oh, he creepy. And I said, no, he loved her.
He loved her. And he was like, what was his line? He's like, even with my grays, like, I told her she could do better, but she showed up. For me, that was the line. He's like, with all my grays.
On time or every day.
He was on time for every day. And I was like, darn.
Yeah.
She's a loyal. And then she died. And I was like, okay. And he had good reason.
Yeah.
But that was the one. Okay, to be fair, I'm a parlay here.
Penelope Cruz is for me.
One character in this entire ensemble of 12 that you're like, all right, I see why you do it.
See, Penelope Cruz did it for me. I was like, oh, okay, she sold it. She sold it. But for me, it's the best done big reveal because I think this is the only one where Poirot comes right out and says, it can only have been done by all of you. And then it cuts to this flashback sequence of all of them. And he says,
okay, pause. This sequence, because it like fades to black and white, and it shows this chaotic camera work.
The stabbing sequence.
All 12 in a panic, rushing in and grabbing and stabbing, and whereas contrary to the previous versions where this was an extremely methodical execution of justice. Let me say it like that. In this, it was such a panicked, and the music was so soft, and
it got me, man. It got me. No, I hate to admit it, but it got me. It worked on me. It worked on me. Okay, I'm weak-minded. It worked on me.
No,
because
I was confused.
Because for me, we've seen the stabbing sequence play out in all three major adaptations. And for me, this was the most emotional of them all. Because it's everything. Listen, I let you go.
This was the emotional?
I let you go. It's my turn.
I'm letting you.
Because for me, it's everything. It's the... Listen. It's everything. It's the acting, the score, the chaotic energy. It's everything. Because you can see the agony on every single actor's faces. Now, I know in the previous adaptations, they took their time with it a little bit more. They said, for my daughter, my granddaughter, for my girlfriend, this and this. And, in the Poirot adaptation, the godmother, Princess Dragomir, is like, I could tell you who we are, but you are not going to a good place. This one, it lets the music do the work and just the expressions on the actors' faces. And Samantha, my wife, actually preferred this stabbing sequence because we don't see Ratchet, Johnny Depp's reactions at everything. We just see his initial, like, what? And we don't see his reaction to being stabbed or anything. It's just purely left to the actors to elevate the drama for us. And the way it's done, and again, like I said, I'm not a fan of the lazy black and white flashback effect to it, but they just carry it through their faces. Judi Dench, Penelope Cruz, even Daisy Ridley, they all carry it. It's done by the actors.
Have you anything to say? I have contrary opinions.
That's great. What?
Okay, over this whole sequence, it was chaotic. It was confusing. The music versus the camera work was jarring. Okay,
For me, it was in a good way.
and then my biggest pet peeve was at the end when Mrs. Hubbard, what's her name?
Linda Arden. Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer sets the paper on fire because she uses a lighter. She uses a separate piece, a matchbook. You know we're gonna.
How do you not feel something?
No, I'm confused.
You don't feel anything?
Feels nothing. Look at this. The music versus the.
If you or someone you know needs help feeling something when experiencing a great tragedy, call the number on the bottom of your screen. We're gonna get him.
If you like making jokes during traumatic events in your family history, you're funny. Okay, that's what matters.
For me, it did something totally different.
That whole sequence for me felt so chaotic. That's the only word that I could feel. And confusing because the music felt so calming and soothing and redemptive. Whereas the camera, and I believe this is what the director meant for the film, which makes sense because this whole sequence is all of that balance of justice versus injustice versus, which makes sense.
If you go back and watch the movie as a whole, they utilize that specific musical motif anytime they're talking. Oh, you were going to talk about the motif? Anytime they are talking about the Armstrong case, they use that. Now, Patrick Doyle, he, for me, gets a little lazy in that way when using musical motifs. It's like he kind of settles on the first thing he tries. But I thought that was a very smart way to go about it. And so, listen, let me fair.
I want to talk about this.
I want to talk about
This was the first movie that throughout the movie I heard the motif and I was like, oh, that's the bit. That's
the bit.
But throughout the movie, I was able to follow it. Only thanks to you being like, oh, that's the theme.
Shut up.
So this was the first time that I was like, oh, this scene is important because the music is playing.
I thought they did so well with it. For me, that's what saved the movie.
That's what waved.
Yes. And beyond that, beyond the, whole stabbing sequence, it's Michelle Pfeiffer's job with the monologue, where she says, no one should hang for this but me. Now, that is taken from the book.
From that bit, Mrs. Arden demands taking the blame.
And that is taken from the book. She says, no, I should be the one to be arrested for this. And Samantha actually liked how this was handled compared to the previous adaptations where she says, let them go. They're not killers. They're good people. They can be good again. Because my wife has a hard time with this story in general where it's like they killed someone, but we're meant to believe that it's a good thing they did. But she thought the way that this adaptation handled it was the best way it could have been handled, where no, they're still good people. And Poirot's line where he said there was right and there was wrong and then there was you.
I cannot judge. You must decide. I don't like how they pulled this bit though, where he's like, you have to decide, here's the gun, you have to shoot me. You can tell the police whatever you want. Mr. Book can tell them whatever they want. But I can't.
See,
At this point, Mrs. Hopper takes the gun and attempts to kill her, and unalive herself. And then it doesn't work. At which point everyone's at kind of a blank, and the movie like just drops into the next sequence.
See, why
There was so much tension. And then there was nothing.
See, I actually kind of liked how they handled this. I did. I really did. Where I thought out of testing Poirot's moral dilemma, I thought that this adaptation handled it the best out of the big three. Because
Comparing this to
he gives us
Shay, you're comparing
and Albert Finney.
Albert Finney, you're comparing this to Kenneth.
And he gives them a gun. If you want to go free, you only have to commit one more crime. Do it! I hated his line read there. Again, I don't think Kenneth Branagh is a great actor. But I think overall, I thought it was a very balanced approach to his moral dilemma. And it is an emotional moment when Michelle Pfeiffer, Linda Arden, takes the weapon and she says, I already died with Daisy. And she tries to unalive herself and it doesn't work because he didn't load it to begin with. For me, it worked. I actually liked it, you guys. I did.
Okay, for me, the redeeming factor of this was the fact that the gun was unloaded.
Yes.
The realization that it was unloaded the entire time, and then you realize this is nothing more than a moral dilemma.
Right.
This is nothing more than a moral test.
So
For her, for him, for the entire group, because you realize that everything that the entire group has done, there's no way to redeem yourself from such.
well, so
this, it doesn't give you any answers, which is the way the book is supposed to end.
the book ends, like we said, abruptly.
Poirot walks off. Then we have kind of an awkward cutscene between Poirot having a couple of conversations with some of the other members.
Just Penelope Cruz.
The camera pans over basically just a group of sad and dejected passengers. They've all found redemption in Daisy's
Vengeance.
Well,
now I don't mind Poirot. He writes his letter back to Colonel John Armstrong and says
I feel
that after he has uncovered all the evidence of the crime, he says he must learn to live with the imbalance. Which, okay, from a filmmaker's perspective, I'm not a filmmaker, but like big picture perspective, I can see how that's a neat little way to tie up the bow of his exposition at the beginning of the movie, where he says, I cannot live with imbalance. Oh, I must live with the imbalance.
as a director, as a screenwriter, script writer, you do find that is a perfect bow.
Right. So then
gotten the train unraveled, they've gotten Mr. Unraveled, and he's like, look, I was an OCD addict before, and now I've come to learn to love, maybe not love it,
live with,
accept, and tolerate the imbalance with which justice, because before, and I feel like
he's like, maybe you all find peace. Yeah.
this is the first adaptation which the book doesn't really let you resolve. Well, the book doesn't resolve. The book lets you resolve. This is the first adaptation that kind of explains the resolution.
Yeah.
Before. Because there, whereas in previous versions, there's a very strong feeling one way or the other.
It's so,
It's a little ambivalent.
Yeah.
It's up to the viewer.
So he tells them that he's letting them go free, and he says, "May you all find peace with this." Now, what I wasn't really okay with was, why didn't we see their reaction to Poirot letting them go free? Because in the previous adaptations, we get to see their sense of relief, like, oh, okay, he's letting us go. Even in the 1974, we get the champagne toast that they're kind of low-key celebrating. But it feels very intentional here to not show their reaction to Poirot letting them go free. We even get this awkward shot of him exiting the train, like up close and personal. We do get to see them as the train pulls away. I don't know if it was like very intentional to leave the viewer up to interpretation, but
which again, the entire like the whole thing being shot on 65 millimeter kind of lets you walk through Poirot's like escape from the train.
Well,
he leaves.
take a look at this. Like, it's instead of showing their reaction, he's walking off.
No, the final scene of him walking. Actually, I'm trying to think of the last scenes. You don't see any of their faces. Like,
You only see their faces. You only see their faces as the train pulls away after he has accepted his next case. It's only like as they're passing through the windows.
That's after the fact that he's told them that the Turkish
I'm going to give them the previous solution. Yeah.
give the I forget
The
what-
police,
He gives the police the details, and they say they've accepted it.
Yeah.
And then he says, "You're free to go."
Yes.
And at which point he walks away. We don't see any of the other side characters until that point.
It's weird. I don't know why they didn't show, like, they really wanted the audience to interpret it for themselves. But it does lead to our setup for the next movie, where a man approaches Poirot and says, "There's been a murder right on the Nile. Right on the Nile."
The Nidal.
The Nile.
Which at this point, as a moviegoer, you look at it and you're like, this is just a setup for the next movie.
Because
Because it
it's an easy way to make audiences go, "Ooh, I need to see the next movie." But again, yet again, Kenneth Branagh thinks, oh, as long as it sounds cool, it's fine. Because if you just scratch beneath the surface for like 5 seconds, and if you already know the story of Death on the Nile, you'll realize that this is impossible. This man saying there's been a murder right on the Nile. Because the actual murder on the Nile occurs well after Poirot arrives in Egypt. And he's already on the boat. But this movie just needed a lazy way to set up the next installment in the series.
Actually, you said it. I hadn't thought about that. You're right. It
Yes.
doesn't happen.
He's already like on the boat, like he's met all the characters from Death on the Nile, and then the murder occurs. So why is this man coming up to me and saying there's been a murder on the Nile? Now, if I remember correctly, the next movie might start with him having solved a case in Egypt. I don't take my word for
There's
it.
a murder on the Nile.
But so what I don't understand is why couldn't they have just had Poirot say, you know, after this, I think I'm going to take a vacation. You know, I think I'm going to go to Egypt. I'm going to take a vacation on the Nile.
That would have been enough.
That would have been fine. That still would have gotten an audience excited and say, oh my gosh, what if this is Death on the Nile?
Patient with Mary Debenham, and Mary would have been like,
Or somebody.
"You're not going to let us go. After all, are you?" And Poirot would have been like, "I've decided that, you know, like my peace and relaxation and going to go to Egypt." And Miss Mary, "You don't think that you're gonna run into another murder there now, do you?"
And then she just looks at the camera like...
And it cuts.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
But our end credits sequence, like you had mentioned before, it's set to the theme, the orchestral theme for the Armstrongs, but now it's made into a song sung by Michelle Pfeiffer, singing an original song. And like I said, Michelle, stick to acting.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it.
Okay, so
And that's the end of the movie.
that's the end of the movie. It kind
Final thoughts. Final thoughts.
I don't know, man. Hot take. I want to like this movie. I really want to like this movie.
So do I.
Between the graphics and the actors and between the overarching moral lessons, between the awkward and unnecessary additions to the story, between the I just feel confused, and I'm like, I'm out. I don't, not to be invested because it's too much to try to comprehend on the overall storyline. I agree, David Suchet. Kenneth Branagh, I feel like this is the movie that I wanted. This is the movie that could have been.
Right.
I feel like the graphics, the technology between the murder and the Orient Express that could have been, and the actors, the makeup, everything, it was perfectly poised, and yet there was so much pressure from 20th Century Fox to try to push this racial moral dilemma
Narrative.
these narratives between this and Kenneth Branagh, he had this kind of
Agenda,
this pipe vision to portray himself as Poirot. This movie would have been perfect if you had a better screenwriter, if you had David Suchet. Like there are elements that could have made this movie great, and yet this movie is nothing more than wanting.
Well, so my biggest question with this adaptation is, why? It's hard.
Money, Sam. Money.
Yeah.
Because, wait,
I want to say that, listen,
money.
it's hard to remake a murder mystery to begin with and keep it fresh for new audiences, because it's not like you can really change the ending. It's not like they could have changed it from they all did it to, oh, one of them did it, because you would have upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
But we can still add all these new plot points to it. But it doesn't really have an impact on the overall outcome. Now, listen, I am still totally on board with keeping the story alive for new generations. But this is arguably, Murder on the Orient Express is arguably the most unique Poirot story, in the sense that, oh, they all did it, and it's kind of a case of moral ambiguity. So if you were looking to start a new series of Poirot stories for a new audience, why start with this one? Like, not, and don't tell me that it's just the most marketable. Because if you were confident in your storytelling and directing capabilities, you could have started with Death on the Nile. And then why just make it like every other action movie out there? Like you were saying before, where it just felt like things you had seen already time and time again. And that's the thing. It doesn't feel...
I can't take this film out of the Poirot series. They didn't tackle this episode, this story, until I think it was season 11?
12.
Okay, pause. Think about that for a second. They didn't tackle this story for 12 seasons.
Because it's so precious. It's so special. Yeah.
This is the story.
Yeah. And so when you finally decide to remake it this way, why are you choosing to make it like every other action movie that's out there nowadays, like you mentioned? And that's the thing. It doesn't feel like a special movie. Like the 1974 movie was made to feel like a special piece of cinematic history, not only because of the casting, but because of the production value, the costumes, and even the branding of this movie, like the fonts that they choose, the style. It doesn't feel special. It already feels dated to me. And at the same time, I mean, this movie is only 8 years old, and it already feels kind of dated. At the same time, I have to say, I do owe a lot to this movie, because I did see this in theaters.
Oh, you did. Yeah.
And it did get me more excited about the murder mystery genre.
Yep.
I had been into it for like kind of a little bit, but it wasn't really solidified.
Well,
This movie did solidify it for me, and when I saw this movie in theaters, I thought, oh, this is not good, because I thought they all did it explanation was just kind of the lazy way out. It's only been in recent years that I've come to realize, wait, this is actually a genius story.
yeah.
So I do owe a lot to this movie in
How
that
many
sense.
murder mysteries did it take for you to write to realize that this was impressive?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And I don't want to delve in this too quick because this is the end of the episode. But I was reading a bunch of articles this afternoon actually about the dilemma of artificial intelligence.
Oof.
And the fact that this is not a sequence of creativity for the future, but just analysis of human patterns.
Right.
So this, anytime you see Netflix or 20th Century Fox or HBO or any of these large production companies look and be like, hey, look, these movies are not matching audience statistics or large draw attractions. You're like, that's not the metric that you measure art by. Which, to be fair, I will bring this up. I make fun of art a lot.
Oh, even a lot of, yeah.
To be fair, because you have half of the genre being like, oh, this is art, and you're like, that's weird as trash. And then you have the other half of art that's like, oh, this is art, and you're like, all right, that's pretty cool.
Well, this leads to the ultimate question, and this is the final question for this episode. And we're gonna have to do a full separate podcast episode about this.
We will.
Because we're going to do our final rankings. Is this movie... Yeah. We're going to... Yeah. Is this better or worse than the David Suchet adaptation?
I'm going to need some real time to process all of that information. Because for me, like, there's so much balance between art and storytelling and cinematics and acting and there's so much to calibrate from. I don't think that's going to be an easy question.
See, for me, I as much as I
No, you're right. No, you can't give your answer now.
see, I haven't even said it.
That ruins the
I
surprise.
haven't even said anything about it yet.
Stop it. Okay.
Let me just say one thing.
Will you?
I pride myself on not being a feeler, okay? However, when it comes to a movie like this, I
No.
put stock into how does the movie make me feel?
No.
And I will say I felt better at the end of this movie than the David Suchet adaptation. Does that make it better? I don't know. We will see. We're going to have to do a separate episode, folks, about our favorite rankings of the different adaptations of this story and our dream cast for the Murder on the Orient Express.
You can do like a live episode of that, or are we gonna have to come pre-prepared?
It'll have to be a
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you join us at the most pivotal, at the most shocking moments of our podcast, where our accolades are the division of accolades. There we go. The division of accolades will probably be the most, not distressing, but dividing. Polarizing between all of the Murder on the Orient Express endeavors, films, entertainment series. So tune in next week.
And in the meantime, let us know your personal rankings. And you're entitled to your own opinion. It will probably be different from mine.
However right.
But, yeah.
Or however wrong.
I apologize for our longest episode yet. But you know what you've signed up for.
Maybe, hopefully you can edit this down to at least 30 and 3 hours?
Yeah. And
is this our record holder?
I think it might be.
I am sorry.
We'll see you on the next time on another exciting edition of Let's Commiserate.
Let's commiserate.